also. This is Carmelia from Making Room for Your Gift on KCWG, thetruth.com, the best internet radio on the planet. And I have with me today Marcus and Pam McLaughlin. Did I say that right? Okay,
yes.
good. I've been practicing for a week. I'm so glad I have it right. You know, we are into this world of a new thing happening, and hopefully it won't last forever. But we are making transitions, and I have to Zoom my guests now. I can't go and visit them like I was planning to do. But what I do on Making Room for Your Gift is I encourage and I inform and I make you think. And that's one of the things our guest today, or my guest today, Marcus, does in our Bible studies on Saturday morning. He will read a scripture and he'll say something, and everybody just goes into an automatic quiet because we're trying to think of what he, the answer to the question that he poses. And it's really a good way to make people not just sit and listen and take in what the speaker's saying, but to all think for themselves and interpret what is being said through the reading. But Marcus, I want to thank you and Pam for joining me on my show. And we'll get through this little recording thing. You're my first Zoom guest, and I really appreciate you being my guinea pig. But I wanted to come on and do a show about the people that are really your success story. But there are people out there right now that are going through cancer, and I have my little ribbons on today, the breast cancer support. But there are other kinds of cancer, and I also have a purple ribbon, which is my purpose for this one is many reasons for the purple one, but one is domestic violence and mental violence, because some people are stuck in a home with that abuser. The kids may be being abused by their parents and are mentally abused, and then there are people that are being held mentally by the person that they live with, whatever. But reach out and get some help. Call somebody, talk to them, email them, just see if you can reach out to someone just to give yourself a little rest, a little peace of mind. So I'm here in support of that, because some people can't get their cancer treatments. Some people can't get their exams, or maybe they had a diagnosis and they can't get that treatment that they need, not yet, until they figure out something with the hospitals and all the doctors and everything. So I really hope people keep them in prayer. And one of the people, they had a miracle. And I mean, you hear miracles now with cancer all the time. I myself had stage 2 breast cancer, and they did an operation, and I don't have any more symptoms, and it's been since 2011 is when I had the surgery. So I am so blessed and happy to report that so far. So we'll just thank God for every day. But Marcus, you had a type of cancer. It's said it was very rare. It's called multiple myeloma. Is that how you say it?
Correct.
Okay. And multiple myeloma is said to be about 30,000 cases might be reported this year, and it's a 10% of the blood cancer cases. And blood cancer, I didn't get the mortality rate on that. Do you have any stats on that? I mean, sometimes blood cancers are hard to cure.
Yeah. So with regard to multiple myeloma, they've made great strides. So it's I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's becoming very low. It's one of the ones that they've been having the most success with, awesome. Which means they're also putting more and more money in it, because they can have success stories. And whether we want to believe it or not, cancer is a business. So if they can have the more success stories they have, the more money the researchers can get invested into a particular type of cancer. This is one of the ones that they're really having great strides with right now, making great
one thing his doctor told us, the transplant doctor, was maybe, I think she said about 10 years ago, multiple myeloma patients were living maybe 2 to 5 years. Now with the medicines and the stem cell, they're now living more like 20 to 25 with multiple myeloma.
Wow, that is so awesome. And Marcus, I want to hear the whole story from, because I remember you saying you had a problem with your back, and I noticed that they were saying some of the symptoms. I have a lot of research I did on this. I was like, oh my gosh, this is something else. And they said that you will have maybe a bone breakage, unusual bone breakage. You have kidney failure, weaknesses, fatigue, renal failure, anemia, calcium buildup. I mean, all this stuff, I was like mind-boggling. Could you kind of walk us through what led up to you being diagnosed for the cancer?
Yeah, so before I get to that, it's funny when you read all the potential outcomes, because I read them too. I've had none of that. So God has been good in my potential. I mean, in my particular case, and I'll get to what led up to it. But for the issues with my spine, I wouldn't. Everything else has been 100% normal as far as you know, any of the other potential symptoms. But how mine arose, you know, because I'm very active, play a lot of golf and lift a lot of weights. So I started with a pain in my shoulder, if you'll recall. I don't know if you remember.
I do remember that. You couldn't do that swing.
yeah. Well, it hurt when I did it. So for a couple years, I just thought it was because of that. So, but it didn't go away. So I went to the doctor, and he couldn't find anything. So eventually he sent me to a surgeon because I thought I may need surgery. And then he said, well, no, maybe we better look deeper into this and check if there's some other issue. So they did a biopsy, right? And so when they did the biopsy, they found, they didn't call it a cancer yet. They called it was a plasmacytoma.
Oh,
so
wow.
It wasn't considered to be an issue unless it went elsewhere. So I had radiation on that, and the pain kind of went away. So I can't remember how long it was. Long ago it was. Long after that it was. But then I started having back pain, which I also thought was from weightlifting and golf. But then it got progressively worse, and then I was fortunately, this shows you how God uses negative things for good. Fortunately, I was rear-ended, and when I was rear-ended, the pain became unbearable.
Wow. So
I went to start getting went to a chiropractor, and unfortunately, their X-ray machines must not be pretty good because I shouldn't have been getting chiropractic treatment, but they were giving me chiropractic treatment, and then that didn't work. And then one day in May of 18, I would go to the movies and have to stand up. That would be our movie night. And then the next morning, I could barely make it down the steps. And I laid on the couch. I was like, wow. I laid on the couch, and my wife and daughter were about to go to work. And I said, well, I'm going to keep the phone beside me because I might have a hard time getting up. So then when they left, I found that I couldn't move. So I told Pam to come back, and because I couldn't have her take me to the doctor because there's no way I could get in the car. I couldn't even move. So she called an ambulance. They took me to the hospital, and then the doctor came back and said what was in my shoulder now went to my spine. That's when it goes from plasmacytoma to multiple myeloma. And it had fractured my lumbar spine at level 2. And that's when everything started.
Wow.
That's when
Oh
the
my
diagnosis
gosh.
started.
And Pam, what was going through your head when all this started? I mean, wow, out of nowhere. 'Cause do you have cancer in your family, Marcus?
Well, now I found out my sister has cancer, and my
Oh,
brother that passed potentially had it, but I knew nothing from my mother or father.
wow. That is so I know how I felt when I was diagnosed and I was like, nobody in my family had cancer. You know, so where is this coming from? So I know I was floored. But what is it like from your point of view, Pam? I mean, when you found out what was happening.
Like you said, it was in the, had been admitted to the hospital. It's funny. I never felt like, oh my God, she has cancer. I just kind of, I don't know. I just was like, okay.
Roll with it.
So, yeah, I just rolled with it, waited to hear. I never felt a doom,
Okay.
I just trusted God.
Uh-huh.
And just listened to the doctors. And, it just seemed like the whole trip, to say it in, just for a better term, there was always just positive messages from the doctors. So, we did everything they wanted him to do, he's done, I believe. So from, the point of the radiation to stem cell was a hard decision for him to make, but he eventually made the decision to do the stem cell. And the stem cell was probably the hardest part of this whole fiasco.
Okay, now you have to walk us back to how the stem cell issue came up. And for the radio audience, Marcus is a frequent guest on Pastor Kevin Mitchell's show, Living a Love Walk. He moderates with Pastor Kevin on a regular basis. So that if that name sounds familiar, then this is who we're talking with right now. We're speaking with right now. So take me back to when you were in a hospital and the doctor says, okay, what are our options? I mean, how did that conversation come up with the stem cell?
Well, like Pam said, the same thing for me. And I have to add this because I'm not making this up. I never had a real fear. It's like when the doctor told me,
okay, there
wasn't any fear. And I had, I don't know what you want to call it, a premonition, something from God. It said, Marcus, you have at least 30 more years on this earth. As I sit here telling you that, that's what came to me.
Awesome.
I was aware. I'm like, wow, where did this 30 plus years come from? And I don't know. I just take that as my message from God. But I never had any fear. You think about the problem is, and I would suggest to people, don't read too much stuff. Read just enough about your issue to become informed. Because see all the stuff that you read about the illness.
Right.
I've had none of those symptoms. So anyway, what happened was they suggested the stem cell. So first I had to do radiation to get the tumor off my spine. Because the doctor said, it was always positive. He said, the fortunate thing about what you have is it's very receptive to radiation. So went to radiation and that got rid of the tumor, but I had the fracture, which was very painful and it took a while to heal. But I had an excellent doctor. What is Dr. Andrew?
He's a neurosurgeon.
Neurosurgeon. He said, Marcus, he said, I'm not going to do surgery because if I do so, it might be a 2 to 3 year process. We're just going to let it heal. I was like, okay. And so eventually it started healing. After a few months, he said, you can start swimming. Because that's the one thing, that's what was killing me because I'm used to staying active. So he allowed me to swim. So I started swimming. And then after a while, they said, well, the next step is the stem cell transplant. My oncologist was recommending it. And at first I said, well, Doc, I'm feeling fine. I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I wasn't going to do it.
Okay.
I said, no, I'm not going to do it. But then I had, because I'd never really been in the hospital, so you got to be in the hospital 2 weeks. And I should have prefaced all this by saying I've never been ill in my life, never taken any medicine other than iron for this, nothing.
That's a blessing within itself, right there.
High blood pressure, everything's excellent, heart excellent. So I said, well, if I'm feeling fine, so, but I had to talk with the family, and they said, hubby and dad, just do it. It's only 2 weeks out of your life. Just do it. So I decided to do it. And the process, it was, and I'm not going too long, but they basically had to go a couple times. They took my plasma out. They take your plasma out. They freeze it. Then they bring you in the hospital and shoot you with a high dose, super high dose is what they call it, chemo.
Wow.
And again, they told me all the side effects that I could have, and I was taking a medicine called Revlimid. I had 0 side effects from that, and then they were telling me all the side effects that you could potentially have in the stem cell. I was like, man, it was a lot of them, and I saw a lot of people in the hospital that had a lot of them. But again, but for the grace of God, but for 2 or 3 days of horrible nausea, that was it.
Wow. You're going to be the poster child.
Yeah. And I got to tell a funny story. With me, I said I like to stay active. So a few days after the stem cell transplant, they let you walk around, and people walking around slow. So I start walking around fast, and I'm feeling good. So I start walking, exercising, and punching. And then I get to the elevator, and everything starts spinning.
Oh.
One of the nurses comes up. They said, do you need a wheelchair? I'm like, yeah. And then boom, I was out. Next thing I know, I woke up. There's about 10 or 12 doctors around me. And they said, well, Mr. McLaughlin, I know you're feeling great, but your numbers are still down. Your system's not up yet. You got to take it easy. So I said, okay, I promise. But other than that and the nausea, everything has been, I hate this. I don't want to use the word easy, but compared to what I saw with other people and what I read about. And I guess one thing when I tell my story, I tell people, young people, whatever you do, try to stay in shape, work out.
Yeah,
I know that's had something to do with it.
Yeah, that seems to be a big plus on your end. Yeah, that is so. And when you go back to this, you say all that reading, and did you do, when I went and was diagnosed, and they told me, read these books, read this thing. I read the books, and I read what happens from radiation, what happens from chemo, and that is, my hair fell out before I even had any surgery or any treatment. I was freaking out because the chemo, I heard it burns in your bones, and it burns you. And I was like, from the inside out, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So I had to do pullovers, comb overs, because I had spots. And then finally I told my girl that did my hair, I said, just cut it off. Just cut it off, and we'll start from, and you know what? When I had the radiation, all I had to do is the radiation. I didn't have to do chemo. None of that happened. It's some of the things in our head that just take off, especially like this virus. This virus is real. People are passing away, and sometimes their underlying issues, what do you call it? Make it go faster. So I don't know. We have to take precautions, but sometimes our minds go a little bit too fast for what is actually happening. Now, tell me from your checkups that you get every, I don't know how often, how are you feeling, and how are the tests coming out, and how long has it been?
Let's see, I had the stem cell transplant January 22nd of 19. And then I was going, I think I go every month. And I have what's called Zometa, which is to strengthen the bones. I have that every 3 months.
Okay.
It's just funny. I read what you read about the bone breakage and softness. And because it's just me, I'm active. I still punch stuff. I can't help it. I jump, run. hopefully God lets it stay this way, but I've had no sensitivity in my bones, maybe a little soreness, and I try to take minimal pain medication because I wouldn't let them. I stopped taking the opioids. I just try ibuprofen.
Oh, they gave you opioids. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Pain was horrible when I first, but I didn't. I think I took it for about a month, and I said, "Now get me to ibuprofen." And now I only take them. Really haven't taken many since they closed the golf courses because that's where the soreness usually comes from. So I haven't.
Okay.
I don't take them. So that's another caveat for people out there. Be careful with the opioids because I'm also in the workers' compensation industry. I see how much of an epidemic that is. They talk about coronavirus, but because pharmaceutical companies are making so much money from opioids, they don't publicize how many people are dying around the country from that. Hooked on it. And doctors just keep prescribing, 500 to 1,000 pills, and this stuff is stronger. They say 10, 20, 30 times stronger than what was the strongest thing that used to be out there when we were younger? Vicodin. These things are 100 times stronger than Vicodin, and they're giving. I've gone, to conferences. Some of these doctors giving 100 to 500 or 600 pills a month to people.
Well, I saw on the Coach Now on the internet. I just watched things, news shows and everything, and there's actually a woman that one of the shows. I think it's the new home makeover show. They come in and they build you a new home. She was somewhere in the Appalachia area, and she was actually taking in children in they had a center, and they were taking in children of opioid addicted parents. I mean, the parents just they zone out and they just keep taking and so they forget about everything, even their children. So that was a big show to get awareness, I think, because it was they come in and they say, oh, you need a new home or whatever, and they have the whole neighborhood come in. But this was kind of an awareness kind of thing. That is serious business with the opioid crisis. But I guess it's getting around. People are hearing about it little by little, but not as big as it should be. So, and that was smart because I back in the day I had a hysterectomy and I took Vicodin. I thought sure I heard people in my bedroom just talking. I wanted them to be quiet so I could sleep. So I was like, okay, we need to stop taking that. So I just went to, like you said, ibuprofen and just worked through the pain until I got better. But sometimes we know when we need to not do things or not take things. We think we can come off of that. But it's always good to check your doctor and just to double check and say, hey, can we do something else? Maybe they have another less addictive form. But I guess I'm gonna let you guys go because I started off a little rocky trying to get my first Zoom program going. But I thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. I know we're inside and we really can't go places, but other people plan to do stuff, and you still, your time is still important, and I appreciate y'all sticking around and give me the thumbs up, Marcus. Thank you for that, so I can get in.
Thanks for having us.
Well, you know what? The one thing is good is to see you guys' faces, and people are getting a lot of rest, and people are getting a lot of sleep, and so everybody's looking a little healthier. Really, tell you the truth, even the earth is healthier. And my roommate left to go out, and I smelled the gas from her car because there's no other gas and no other smells in the air. I was like, wait a minute, why am I smelling that in the bedroom? What's going on? But I had my window cracked, so I was like, what is it? It is so quiet. I can sit here, no TV, and just
hear the birds.
Enjoy a nice cup of tea, and just it's a different world. But I think we needed the rest. I think my pastor said it on Sunday. We need the rest, and I think the earth needs the rest from us.
So, can I close with saying one more thing?
What?
Just as I said with my cancer diagnosis, and as I say with this cancer diagnosis, I do what the doctors say. and this coronavirus, keep good hygiene, stay clean, and trust God. Just do what you can do and leave the rest to God. Because if you're saying, all the people out there, you must have a Christian audience. If you say you believe in God, this is the time you stand on His word. We should be speaking to others, and we shouldn't be freaking out and panicking, because we ultimately know who's in control.
Yes, we do. We do. And you know what? The radio station listeners has doubled on KCWG. And he wants that to double. And I was like, Pastor, you're not satisfied with what's going on now? He said, I want it to double. I want it to be the place that people come. Because you can listen to gospel 24/7, and you can also hear shows like this. And this show, hopefully it'll help someone to give them encouragement and give them the faith to know that they're not in control, God is, and anything is possible through God. And Marcus, I want to know if you could pray us out. That's after Kevin used to say. Can you give us a little prayer? Just I don't know what you want to pray, but just give us a little prayer.
All right. Let's bow our heads. Dear God, first of all, we just want to thank you for being you. We want to thank you for letting us know that you're still on the throne. You haven't moved, no matter what happens in this country, in this world, or in our individual lives. You are still at, Jesus, you're still at the right hand of God. So just give us the proper insight. Help us to do the things that we can do within reason for our health and our hygiene, but ultimately to trust in you. And we ask that you bless each of those that are listening here. And we ask that you guide our leaders internationally, nationally, and locally, and guide us as Christians to do what you would have us do, to be a beacon of light and share your hope with others. These blessings we ask in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And thank you guys again for joining me. And thank you, my listening audience, for being with me on KCWG, thetruth.com, the best radio on internet radio on the planet. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Talk to you soon.